can we see here? Alrighty. It's not going to happen there. That's just there to completely distract you. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. We're here today to talk about apartment living and affordability. I want to just start the conversation because most of you are in the area, and then I've got other people coming external to this, so you just want to jump in as we go. But if we could start the conversation around what are your frustrations if you were to live in an apartment? Do you live in an apartment? Have you ever lived in an apartment? Have you holidayed in an apartment? So I want you to sort of think about apartments and share with me. So maybe if we start and just go around the room about apartment living, what's your experience been, and I get a bit of a sense for who you are.
I guess apartment living, I haven't really lived in an apartment other than going out and on holidays. What comes to mind is noise, privacy, your spatial area that you're used to not being close to a whole group of people where they live.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about proximity to neighbours, or you're talking about even in proximity to people in the dwelling itself?
Exactly.
Both.
Yes.
Okay. Keep talking. I just write notes. So, that's okay. Yep.
Yeah, and of course the size. The size is also something that you grow up in a larger home.
Yep.
Lots of bedrooms, lots of private open space, and you don't get that in the apartment.
Just wanted to welcome our new people. We've just started, so you just walked in on hello, and I'm Halinka from BDC Market Research. I didn't tell you that before; it was just a surprise. And we're going to be talking about apartments today. So whether you like to live one, whether you've lived in one, whether you've holidayed in one. I just want to kind of understand where you're at. So that's what we're just going to go around the room and start with that and have some more and enjoy. So some really interesting thing. So your experience about what you're used to in terms of, so you're living in a home at the moment. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I was going to say how many bedrooms?
Yeah, it's a 5-bedroom home.
Okay, so it's a big home compared to what that would be in a
that's
home. Right. Okay, Patrick.
Me. Well, I've always lived in houses. More recently, I've moved into an apartment. And
sorry, what was your name?
Tony.
And I've been in the apartment probably, I don't know, maybe a bit over a month.
Yeah.
And I'm actually surprised, being a building designer and working on a lot of apartments, designs and things like that. It sort of opened my eyes a bit to how you actually live in a smaller environment. I've always lived in a larger house, so I was finding it very hard to adjust at first, but the rooms aren't that. The apartment that I have currently is actually quite large, so it's not.
Can you define large for me? Like how many bedrooms?
It's 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
One of the bedrooms is the main bedroom is. I measured it just recently.
You measured your bedroom. Excellent.
Yeah, I did. Being a designer, I've got to know.
Yeah.
And the bedrooms it was 3.6 by 2.9, I think it was, and that's actually not
welcome. We're just sort of starting, so
just sit here.
Are you participating or observing? No. Well, then you need to sit around the table because I need to see you and hear you. So come and join in. You can pull some chairs in around the corner or just up there.
I'll move.
No, they're for you. Excellent. Welcome. We're just starting, and we're just talking about apartment living, whether you've ever lived in one, whether you've ever desired to live in one, even, you may stay in one on a holiday, and just some of the things that you've noticed frustration. So we're just talking about that. So Patrick's sharing with us a big room is 3.6 by 2.9. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. I mean, it's reasonably big for what it is. I
Yeah.
guess. But the smaller rooms, it's less than 3 by 3. So that's probably on the smaller size. But my daughter fits in it, and it's fine.
But she's small, so that's.
So she's small. She doesn't need a big room, and it's actually it's west facing.
Yeah.
With south facing windows, which one would think that it's not very light or bright or anything. This apartment, there's so much light in it. It's surprising, actually. No, west facing.
West facing.
Yeah. Especially in the morning, you would think that it would be quite dark, but no, it's not. As far as noise level is concerned, the doors slam, and when they slam, everybody hears it.
Who's everybody?
Everybody that lives there, like
The entire level.
the entire level. Yeah, absolutely.
How many are on the level?
On the level, there are 14 apartments. So you, in one door slams, you hear it goes all the way through.
That'd be annoying.
Yeah, it is, especially when you're going to bed and somebody
Hi,
decides to
welcome.
go out.
Do you want to just pop yourself here?
Yeah.
Cool. We've got a nice family here today, so welcome. We just started a bit early because I've got so many people. I want to talk to everybody, so we'll come back to you. We're talking about apartments, and if you've ever lived in one, if you've ever holidayed in one, and your experience. Okay, so noise. So how do you think that could be handled? It's a frustration, clearly, the noise of privacy.
The noise is not so much through the walls; it's more through the entry of the entry to the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to my landlord today, actually, first time I met him, and he actually said that he up-spec the insulation in the surrounding walls.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually helps with reducing the noise.
Yeah. But that's
from
not
the
standard,
adjoining properties, which is actually quite nice. But the whole entrance is.
So you're talking about through the front door, all the hallway, and
the hallway reverberates quite loud, and you can actually hear.
so is it open plan that noise is sort of?
It's open plan, but it's got a dog leg kind of.
Okay, so there is a kind of a buffer.
Yeah, there is, but it's at night when you're sitting there, you might be reading your iPad or going ready to go to sleep, and somebody decides they're going to go out. It's loud.
Okay. All right.
My turn.
Yes. Now, what was your name?
Angela.
Angela.
Well, unlike you, I grew up in an apartment, not in Australia, in Colombia, in the capital city, Bogota, which is, I would say, 9 times more dense than Melbourne. Most of the urban development is based on apartments, so basically having a house is a novelty and a privilege for a very small minority of the population. My parents bought that apartment when I was around 10 years old. So I grew up with my other 2 sisters sharing 2 rooms. Some of the frustrations that we had when growing up was the noise from the newly newborn baby from upstairs, for example, the barking dog. Then right now we kind of like knew when the dog was going to start barking. Kind of like you got to know your neighbors through the walls and all that. Some other frustrations had to do with sharing spaces where people, like, for example, who leave the stuff, like bikes and stuff where they were meant to leave things.
So shared spaces, the common areas.
The common areas, yeah, exactly. And sometimes I would suppose the facility manager didn't do a good job in like maintaining and like cleaning some areas, but it wasn't consistent. Like most of the times it was clean, but there would be some times of the year, like towards the end, maybe December, where more people came to the city, where things didn't look that well. And that's basically my experience. I now live in a townhouse, which that's much nice. Yeah, compared to my 70 square meter apartment. Yeah.
Alex.
Alex.
Yep. Is it good or the bad or?
I guess just initially your experience, and we're going to drill into more the good or bad, but just frustrations and things that, yeah.
Had a lot of companies over the years. Frustrations are probably sharing what you just said, common areas. Some apartments have common areas like laundries, etc. So I found that was maybe the hygiene or the cleanliness factor. Your standards aren't met by your fellow apartment dwellers, so that was also frustration. Noise is a common theme, so depending on the quality of the apartment, noise from above or most from above actually create concrete.
Hi, welcome. We've just started. If you could just pull up a chair right up the back corner. I'm just going to see a little video link here. It's not working. You're all on national television. I mean, on my YouTube channel, which so it's okay. So if you could all, that's beautiful. Now we just have a little mic here, so you need to speak loudly as well for me. And I repeat, that's just because of the mic, not because you're not here.
Yep.
So keep going, Alex. Alex is sharing with us what we like about apartment living, whether we've experienced it, and we'll come back to you at the end. I've got two latecomers, and so that you sort of catch up. So
yeah, so just in terms of the noise factor, predominantly the floor above, which is a concrete floor, no floor covering, so you can use people flopping around or moving the furniture. Once again, if I've lived in an apartment with a lot of furnishings, a lot of carpets, etc., that was a lot better. So depending on the quality of the apartment, has an impact on the noise level. In some of the apartments I've lived in, obviously lifts were an issue, so if they broke down during the 8th floor and you have to sort of scramble up 8th floor, that's a little issue. Yeah, it's not bad for me, but if you're elderly, it would be a big issue, especially if you have some disability or something like that. Good things, most apartments I've lived in have had a lot of light, a lot of light in the apartment, and most of them have actually had not just one division, it's been like 180 degree light, I've got one and a back one on that. So I love that, makes me feel really good. Probably the downside is not having a garden space or anything like that for an animal or pet.
The ground floor.
So animal pet, any other uses for the garden or just animals?
Money for the people.
Okay. Okay. What was your name? Jenny. Can we come back to you at the end so that you get a chance to figure out what's happening, and we'll go with Katrina.
Yeah, I lived in an apartment in Sydney, waterfront apartment. I suppose the issue there was that we only had a tiny lift, and trying to get your furniture up the lift was a nightmare, and even some people had to get cranes to bring in their furniture. So that was an issue. But there was only 2 apartments to a floor, so it was quiet. So there was no noise factor that was involved in it.
So the building itself was narrow, or was just really big apartments? I'm just trying to imagine what.
They were big apartments, so they only had 2 to a floor. It's a Mirvac development.
Yeah.
Development, and they only had 2.
Do you know how many square meters or how many bedrooms it was?
There was 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and a large living area and kitchen area, and beautifully done. But there was an issue with the sewage, in the sense that you always got this terrible smell from the actual laundry.
From your laundry, or was there a communal laundry?
No, it was my laundry.
Okay.
And I think,
Hi, welcome. Sorry to interrupt you. Hey, Louis and Phoebe. Now this is just getting the best party in the world. So just there's a chair over there. Oh, 2 here. If you're happy to squeeze in there, and we're sort of going to try and include you, and you might need to adjust camera roll.
Great, thank you.
See how we go. Just in there and come and squish over here. Come and sit near me. I had a shower yesterday. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Okay, so we're discussing sewage and smells from your laundry. We're going to ask you these questions too. Don't be afraid of sharing everything. Smell from the laundry, which wasn't your dirty laundry. So there was just with the draining.
Okay. That was, issue. And there was the communal pool you could use, and there was a gym, but it was a very small gym, properly used. I don't even know what they bothered with it. But I think the biggest issue is the body corporate fees.
Okay.
Yeah, they were about 6,000 or 7,000 a year. Quite large.
And you had a gym and a pool for that.
Yeah, and the pool, no one used it. And the gymnasium was so small, just had the basics in it. So it was a lot of money for
Not a lot. How many
Not a lot.
levels do you remember?
how many?
Levels was the building.
8. No, 9. Sorry, 9. There was a penthouse on the top, and I was on the 7th.
Right, so 8, if I do that maths, I really concentrate with all these
There was
distractions.
quite a few of
2
them,
times
though,
9
hotels.
is a lot, nearly 20. Okay, so
Yeah.
20 a month.
Yeah.
Excellent. What was your name?
Gary.
Gary.
I've lived in apartments, but also I have tenants in apartments there, and a lot of things I've found, it's not the space, it's the use of the space. People bringing furniture in, and due to the PowerPoints, aerials and things like that, it really limits where they can pick up, their furniture. And a lot of them have to downsize furniture, so if I'm looking for apartments, I'd like a semi-industrial one with the PowerPoints on the floor, and people can move their furniture around to suit.
Okay, so
That's
just, we're going on to, we discussed this earlier. PowerPoints aren't very sexy, but they're really important.
They limit your design.
So you're talking about furniture design.
Well, just the electrics, they make a big difference how people actually,
So where they're placed.
where they're placed. Same as bathrooms, they may have a mirror there, but you can get a built-in cabinet behind it that gives people space as well.
So you're talking about storage.
Same as bedrooms, most of the wardrobes are quite small, people aren't, especially the younger people have a lot more clothes, so storage space is important.
Hi, what was your name?
Phil,
Welcome, Phil.
I haven't lived in a unit for 40 years. And when I did, it was in Sydney.
Mhm.
Sydney's quite a different kettle of fish when it comes to units. There was a block of 4 units,
Mhm.
and the walls close in on you fairly quickly when the small units with small rooms.
So they were called flats then.
Yes.
They weren't called units. They weren't called apartments.
units.
Okay. All right. So cool.
And a few little problems. The fleas would travel from
The fleas.
would travel from next door, unit next door, because we're on the ground floor,
Mhm.
under the floor, through the carpet.
2-story, 4 on each floor.
Yeah, good fun. As I said, haven't lived in it for 40 years. Currently live on 10 acres. Thank you.
So am I guessing you're
Yeah,
married?
yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
fine.
because there's somebody who's speaking for.
Oh, well, I got that straight up. So,
Yeah.
which I love to do myself. I'll just speak for all of you. But so you can sort of talk together because we've got a big group. So I'll just count you as one. So what was your name? Drew. Can I come back to you about if you were to move into an apartment, because you were talking about that when we spoke on the phone, and we can talk about what it would be like. So hold that thought. We're going to keep going. Mike. I don't remember none of your names. All right, awesome.
So many to remember. I've lived in many apartments, probably 6 or 7 all up.
Yeah.
I've also lived in houses too.
Yeah.
I guess I purposely rented apartments to see which ones are good and what are the good things about apartments. So I started with a studio apartment all the way up to 2-bed, 2-bath. I love apartments. As a result of living that lifestyle, I really enjoy them. Particularly,
Can you just tell me what lifestyle means to you?
So I guess I live a lifestyle that's more akin to inner city. So I spend very little time at home. And I love the fact that my apartment has everything I need and I can just lock it up and go away for the weekend or do whatever. In terms of the usability of the apartments, I've really enjoyed that too. So I'm not sure if it's because of the lifestyle I live, but I don't need a bigger closet. You know, like if winter's gone, those clothes go. You know, it's a very to Vinnie's or wherever.
Okay. Yep.
I don't need to store lots and lots of clothes in the cupboard because the lifestyle that you're living, the new fashion will come out anyway. So I don't need that storage.
Simple.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. So I have lived.
For me. Once you've got a girl, man.
Yeah, no, but I have lived. I have lived in
This is
apartments
free marriage counselling.
with other people too. What I would say for me, apartments are awesome if you know how to live an apartment lifestyle.
Yep.
And people who really enjoy that lifestyle celebrate apartments in a big way. If you're used to living in a house and going into an apartment, it's a very different story. Not to say that you won't like it, but it might take you a little bit of time to really appreciate the best things about living in an apartment.
So they should come with an extraction bathroom like a fridge.
You don't even need a fridge.
Well, no, I mean the instruction manual.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a guide to downsizing,
I
sort of,
I think
or living simpler, or what?
it's celebrating the best parts of living in an apartment lifestyle. And that goes down to the community that you live in. So for me, I pick an apartment building based on the people I think who are going to be living in the building, because that's a big factor for me. I want to live in an apartment building that is young and vibrant, but also has downsizers in there who will keep a really good eye on how the building's being run, and you won't have parties all the time. A really nice mix of people, preferably owner-occupiers, but renters are fantastic too, as long as you're getting the right tenants in there. Storage, there's plenty of ways to deal with storage in an apartment, in my opinion. It's about maximising the storage within the apartment itself as much as you can. Having adequate storage cages, but also being able to knowing how to use those storage cages properly for your needs.
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff happening. I'm just trying to catch up with you.
Yeah.
As is everybody here. You're all absorbing this too. That's part of the work. So you have to keep working with me. There's a snack there if you feel fatigued. Can I come back to you?
Yeah, no worries.
Because there's a lot here. And we're going to continue to this whole conversation around frustrations, how you do it, and the how to. So this is awesome. All right.
What is the question?
It's too broad. It's, have you lived in an apartment? Would you like to? Have you ever considered even maybe a short stay in a holiday in an apartment? And what are the frustrations? What are the things that you enjoy? Sort of talking mainly around some of the frustrations and the challenges. So just share with us that initially.
Okay.
And what was your name?
Vivi. I lived in, I think, 4 apartments before. One block was an old block, and the other 3 were somewhere between 5 and 10 years old. I think communal space is a big one. The first apartment block that I lived in had no communal space. I had no idea who my neighbours were because I never saw them. It's just like ships passing in the night sort of thing. So I think that the communal space and like a sense of community and like having a body corporate that organises events or whatever is like quite important. Storage.
Yeah,
Be controversial.
yeah. Did you actually have an experience where your body corporate did?
The last apartment building that I lived in, they were always organising like parties in a rooftop garden, and they would often organise it wasn't exactly like a drinks thing because you're not supposed to drink alcohol up there, but like it's like just like meet and greet sort of things, and they did a Christmas party and various different sort of, I think we did a Halloween party one time. It wasn't exactly like they weren't providing anything, but they were just sort of like, we had an inter-apartment building communication system, and they would send out messages to everybody and just say like.
So it's like an intranet?
There's like a page that you went to and people could post things like a
forum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could also post stuff like furniture that you were selling, and stuff like that.
So could you organise an event or is it up to the body corporate? to
No,
do
you
it?
could post and organise an event yourself.
Just I want to meet everybody to turn up onto the rooftop garden.
Yeah. Or like, is anybody selling this? Or,
Okay.
you know, does anybody want to house sit my pet on this day, sort of thing.
Okay, so the request in the forum was that broad.
It was like anything,
And people responded.
Yep.
So you had a real sense of community.
definitely.
All because you had a forum.
Yep.
That's the one reason.
And the space to meet people in. If you don't have a space to hang out in, it's not like inviting somebody like one of your neighbours over to your apartment is a bit weird when you just met them. Kind of like
True, in social interaction. Yes.
Yeah.
But not us, we're not weird, we just responded straight away. Yeah. Okay, but that's really important. So anytime I talk to people about the building communities, whether it's houses or apartments, it is how you interact. So we're going to get to that is the how to guide and the how to make friends, because I know that sounds weird, but it's not really when you think about it. Making friends, making community, settling yourself in is important. So we're going to talk about some of those things. Okay, can you give me, there was something else I just cut you off when you started there. You talked about the community and how you made connections. You can say something else.
I can't remember.
Storage.
Was it storage?
Oh yeah, that's just a big one. Like it can be extremely varied, and then sometimes you get storage and there's heaps of it, but it's not actually functional.
Okay.
Like it just doesn't quite work. I remember having a dishwasher one time that opened, and when you had the dishwasher open, you couldn't open two of the cupboards to put the things out of the dishwasher into. It's just stuff like this little like design issues like that.
I'm just having a quiet laugh. Okay. It's not bad. No, many designs in through. Okay, we wouldn't have done it. No. All right, it's okay. We're going to laugh. We're going to just get to hit you. It's going to happen. What was your name?
Louis.
Louis.
I grew up in both houses and apartments, and I think the apartments have both advantages and disadvantages. I think the advantages are obviously the ability for community, a potential for an apartment to develop this sort of community approach, which I think, not that happens more, that's easier to instigate in an apartment, I feel, in a general street because of the nature of everyone living together. In saying that, I think in order to happen, it's beneficial where there are community facilities which are not, which help, which are there more for that purpose. For example, like a gym is less likely to encourage community facility interaction than I would say a sort of a rooftop garden, because you're going to go to the rooftop, you're going to relax there, that sort of thing. Obviously the negatives is...
Okay, wait, just a really good point. So you're talking about community enabling versus community non-enabling, or just downtime, personal time.
Yeah.
Work with me here, people. You're going to help me. So what are the spaces that enable social interaction?
Well, I think fundamentally that a garden-esque sort of space is probably the biggest. Somewhere where people can go and sit outside and relax, because obviously when you have an apartment, you're also losing that ability to have a garden in most cases.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I like growing vegetables and stuff. If I had an apartment that allowed me to do that other than just on my balcony, that'd be a big potential thing.
So we bond over, I see you over the carrots. Is that how it happens? Okay.
But also, you know, as Phoebe was saying, you can just, people would go up, I mean, they were supposed to have a drink up there, but you can someone to sit and relax, which isn't like a place.
So a garden that has seating, that has bench seats, that has foods, we're talking. It enables people to just sit and have a chat and talk, opens it up, barbecues, okay. And the areas that aren't, we're going to go to more and you're going to all help, but areas that aren't,
well, I just feel, I feel like those sorts of, like, you know.
It's a personal space.
Yeah, you're going there, you might see someone else, but you're not going there, and if you see someone, not likely to necessarily like struck up a conversation or something.
They got their earphones on.
Yeah, and they're doing their own thing. It's more of a personal, you know.
What other things are personal spaces? You know, shout out at me here that you've got in apartments that you don't want to talk about.
It's similar to a rooftop.
Are they enabling or non-enabling? So
enabling, yes.
Enabling, yeah.
So the courtyards are really important for that space.
So you can walk through them.
Somebody might sit down, read a book in the sun. might have some kids running around.
You're doing the commercial now.
Yes.
Okay. And what about non-enabling spaces? Is a pool? Can I talk to you while we're swimming? Is that weird?
Not enabling.
Non-enabling swimming, saunas. They're a bit high. That's a bit weird, isn't it? I'm just trying to.
What did you have to do?
Well, it's hard. I mean, unless you're Swedish and having a beer, I think that's not our culture. Well, I don't know.
No.
And then they may also be female male.
Yeah.
Which could mean one's very chatty and the other one's not. It's obviously the male. But anyway, so what other spaces are we talking about? Can we just have a think about that? Have I cut you off or have you got more?
Well, I was just going to say what I think the disadvantages of apartments is quickly.
Okay.
I'll just say that it's obviously the restrictions on size fundamentally.
Yeah.
And I think if you make it too small, I think an advantage in apartment blocks in many cases would be that you could have kids and you can actually, it's not just like, the problem with a 1-bedroom apartment is it's very hard to, if you're young, to sort of grow if you want a family and stuff, because obviously you can't have a family in a 1-bedroom apartment. So I feel the market, if there are bigger apartments as well that families can be in, then that helps, I feel, with that communal sort of sense.
So what's too small? Have you got a size?
Well, I think if you had like a 3-bedroom apartment would be fine for a family, you know?
How big was your apartment? 70 squares?
Yeah.
And how many people lived in it? 3?
5.
5.
That's kind of like.
So 70 square meters, just to give that in a sense, is probably about 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen, and a lounge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so,
Yeah.
and 3. That's 5 people.
Yeah.
And you're talking.
I'm saying a 3-bedroom apartment, like a 2 adults and 2 kids sort of thing. And I just think, if there were multiple kids growing up in the same block and you had these sorts of communal spaces, it just helps to, create a friendly vibe, like could
Which
go.
is what you were saying. Children, different age groups, important to have a broad demographic to create community.
Yes, I'd say all the apartment buildings I've lived in, there've been no children because the people living in those buildings are either younger or downsizers because that product suits them the most.
So how would you get kids in there? We're coming to you.
Well, it comes down to affordability. To get a 3-bed, 2-bath apartment, you're going to pay $1.2 million, or you jump in a house for a million. That's the whole equation behind why you don't see that many of them, because it becomes so costly to build for the disadvantages that they have against them. You're still up against that.
Mm-hmm.
So there are times when a 3-bedroom apartment can work, but it's not typical.
Okay, so you've got size that you could fit the family in, but it's also probably not a lot of infrastructure around places where apartments traditionally have been for families, like schools and things.
Essentially, the market that you're selling to is so low for a 3-bed product that you're charging a fair amount for it to be able to build the thing.
Yeah.
You're only appealing to a narrow band of people, typically, and those people are at the very higher end of the price band.
My mother had a 3-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
She was on one. She lived 3 bedrooms.
That's right, and it's typically people.
And they had a company title, so they didn't really have that. So most of their leave, they did not allow them to buy.
So that was the covenant on the building.
And that's company title.
What's the company title? Somebody help me, I'm not.
Yeah.
But they restrict. So if I wanted to buy in the
They should be able to buy.
okay, so it's like an interview process.
It was very restrictive. That's what
Is that in Sydney or here? Have we heard of that in Melbourne?
There's company,
they.
there's company titles that pretty much will make their own rules.
Essentially, that's right.
Okay, so but could you tell me more? Sorry, go.
Different lending rules from financial institutions.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you can borrow against the company.
Okay. It might be
It's
different.
difficult. In mostly people that can afford to pay for it.
So pay out.
So there is a mark.
So my real question is actually 3 bedrooms for 1 person. What sort of stuff does she have? I just need to know all the dirty now. 3 bedrooms. Does she have a boarder? Did she have lots of visitors?
No, she was not a boarder. She had a master bedroom. She had a bathroom. She had a spare room for children and grandchildren to come and stay.
Okay, so she had
And she had her study. And she needed that. If she had that, would be the biggest problem for her. Why she had to buy 3. She moved out.
What happens in the sunning room?
The dining room.
Was it a dining room or a sunning room? I think
So
sewing. Well, there you go.
She had a knitting machine. She had the work.
Oh, okay, so it was her craft, her workshop.
It's like my
So it's
study.
like a study. Okay.
And they had to be a very large bedroom. The dining lounge was quite large and went onto a balcony at the back.
Yep.
And the front was ground floor, and they had access to the gardens and stuff. So it was a communal laundry that was the only issue. But only 2 units used the laundry on the ground floor.
So 2 units shared. So it had 1 washing machine, 1 dryer.
No, they had one.
Or they put in their own, just in a different space.
Yeah.
But it was hers.
Her washing machine.
Okay.
And the other lady was on top. But yeah, but here's a negative on apartments. I'm not saying
That's okay. That's why you go here through and forth.
because I lived in an apartment. They both went to boarding school, so I lived most of my life as a kid up until 17 in a room no bigger than stages
Okay.
in boarding school, so I was used to limited space, student space.
Yeah.
I lived in an apartment in Lane Cove, which was it had about 5 or 6 stories, and that was great. My sister and I shared that.
Yeah.
The positives are you don't have to clean so much. Just smaller areas of my which is why I have somebody else clean my house now. So I don't like it. So, you know, whilst it's small, you still had your own space for 2 of the sharing a 2-bedroom place. And it's close to where I work, so it's, you know, there are a lot of advantages in having a smaller space versus
Negatives?
parking is always an issue in every place out there.
So you would have needed 2 car parks
Yeah, it's a visitor car park.
and visitor.
The people who tend to use, like, the problem with apartments now is that most people have 2 cars. If it's more than 1 person apartment, they have 2 cars. You see any suburban house now, you've got 3 to 5 cars. The streets are full. Most apartments come with 1 car space and maybe 1, what is it, the wheels are around 1 visitor car park, and there's will be still 8 units. And everybody who actually is an owner has an extra car and they park in the parking space. So when you, as an owner, I have a visitor, they can't park in them. So parking is a big issue everywhere, no matter where you are. If you got a house, that's a problem.
So when you were in the space close to work, you still felt the requirement to have a car? So if you were in a CBD location, I mean, you're coming back to, forgotten, but do you have a car?
Yeah.
You do. We'll come back to that. I just feel I've neglected 2 new visitors.
A small car.
A small car, but
But you want to
still a
visit
car.
people, go.
Australians go places. So I don't know that now. See that on the ad, that was you. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
You might want to go out and see.
You go everywhere. All right. So sorry. What was your name?
Name and
Sorry to leave you second last. Are we second last? Who else did I miss? Just yourself. Okay, Jenny. Right.
So I've grown up in the apartments. The first ones were old block and didn't have any like forum or any of the page or anything.
Before all
yeah,
the
that was
technology.
before the technology. Yeah, but then if you want to organize anything,
So was that
people-
apartment in Australia or overseas?
overseas, so
Okay, so whereabouts?
in Beijing.
So China.
So
And
my
you lived there
kids
with
want
your family?
to with family. want to organize things, you could just simply post a paper in the elevator, and then if anyone wants to join, and people meet up.
Okay, so
Yeah,
just
yeah.
taking me back here. Family. So you're living there with your parents, talking about your childhood, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so and other people in the building living there with
They
families?
will mostly they all live with their families.
So one child.
Children, yeah.
Yeah.
And pets. Several.
And pets.
Yeah, several pets.
Several pets
Yeah.
per unit.
Per unit, yeah.
You'll explain to me how that works later. Okay, let's just go back to, so your bulletin board, or what did you call it, notice board earlier, is this you wanted to hang out or catch up with people, you stuck it in the lift.
Yeah.
So that was prior to internet. Is it more trendy now, or are you living here now and you haven't experienced it?
Now, I think it's pretty much the same. Like, there's no, like, internet electronics going on in the building or anything.
Okay, so you created your community that way, but you had
But
kids
because there were a lot of kids in that building, I suppose it depends on where the apartment's set. So it's in the area that we have schools, supermarkets, we're all nearby. So it's very convenient for families. Yeah.
Okay, was it in the CBD as we
It's
call
in
it
the
here, or is it
CBD, yeah.
Okay, so but the infrastructure around your apartment was family. Right?
Yeah.
So you could walk or drive or ride to school, transport. How did you get to school?
Like bikes.
Bikes to school, awesome. We had that for one day.
And then you don't have to, like, parents don't have to drive or anything.
Parents don't drive.
No.
All right. So, do you know roughly the size in square meters or in how many bedrooms roughly?
90 to 100, like 90 square meters to roughly 100.
Okay, so what are some of the frustrations living in an apartment growing up?
I guess just the noise. For example, the dogs.
Okay, so we had dogs as well. Yeah. What are these dogs doing? Barking?
So you're barking and then running, and you can't hear that from the top.
Yeah, all through the
All
ceiling.
through the ceiling. Yeah.
What are the negatives?
I don't know. The drainage smell.
So how do we work around these issues when we face them?
Both kitchen and bath, like toilets.
Over to you, family. How do we address this? I mean, you both addressed. So can we sort of come back to some of them, or I don't know if I'll be able to do this. So I'm just going to jump straight in. But we're talking about drainage. It smells pretty awful. How do you think it could be designed better in the future? What were the strategies you put in place to get rid of the smell?
Well, I just contacted the corporate and they organised it all. But then we were paying very high fees, so they acted fairly quickly. So they just got a plumber in and fixed it. It was just our apartment, so obviously we started to switch with our apartment. But
so something was blocked, or
yeah, then finally they got rid of the smell.
And same, is it something that just needed to be fixed and then got addressed, or was it an ongoing thing?
It's ongoing, so it's can't be like completely fixed.
Okay, so because the building was old, or is it?
Yeah.
So how would you fix that here?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, that smells on your own unit or everybody else's?
Everybody else.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I was going to say it might be because of an older building and some of those
Mine was
services.
very new. I was brand new.
Just when you said that, I was a bit surprised it was brand new. And you got
Yeah.
that's some plumbing issue.
Yeah.
Some
That's
block.
with that particular one. Yeah.
Okay, so has anyone else experienced that kind
Yeah,
of
so
thing?
you shouldn't get any of that in a well-built new apartment
No,
building.
you shouldn't.
It's actually designed not to do that.
Okay.
What can happen sometimes is that if a place is left unattended for a long period of time, like 3 months, that has a potential to build up a little bit, but it should go like fairly quickly.
That's right. The pipes aren't being used.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll
Yeah.
just, did you have any more? We were at negatives. Positives of living in an apartment? You talked about community. Did you make friends?
Yeah.
How family, made friends, socialised people in the building. What
And
else
also
positive?
support network. When neighbors can, like when I was little, the neighbors can take care of me when my parents it's not like the reason to do it now.
Yeah, so your parents put a post-it note in the leaf that said, "We're going out. Can someone
And then you
pop
could
in?"
just knock on doors and then like, could you take care of my child for one night, and they'll do it.
Okay. What's the address of this place? Excellent. All right, so that's the ultimate. You lived there a long time. You knew your neighbours, and obviously you had that rapport, and you trusted them to do that. So it sort of takes a while. And you're nodding because you've been there for a long time. Yeah. That was the same sort of experience. Okay, we're just going to zip over to Jenny. Yeah, me. And just share with us your experience of apartment. Have you lived in one or?
Yeah. I have living in apartment all the time. Here in Australia.
Yeah.
So I just actually moved out to city apartment this year. So I was living in a high-rise apartment, 15 levels.
Yes.
So it is a 40 levels building. One downside for me is the ventilation. Actually, I know because of building regulations, the window only can open like this about.
Okay.
So we are not at home. My flatmate had to lock the door because she's afraid the neighbors may climb my balcony. I don't know how, but it can happen anyway. So she closed the door, and then all the apartment only had like one window. So
there's only one window in the apartment that opens, and it opens 10 centimeters.
Like 12.
You measured it, okay. You should have a copy with this guy.
Regulation is 125.
Yeah, regulation is saying like that.
So she's good. Okay, see. All right, so, all right, and so.
Yes, and I just complained with her, like, come on, we are living at the 16 level. Who gonna climb it? And some interesting happened one day. I forgot my key. And my flatmate was away, so she was overseas, so I don't have actual key with my friend. So I knocked my neighbor's door and I said, I'm sorry, I forgot my key. And can I have a little bit of me if I can climb over? And then I stand beside blocking age. I said, no, I can't do it. And my neighbor's a very lovely, cute girl. I believe she came from Latin or something, and she said, I can do it. No way. And she, don't worry, I can do it. And then she just climbed straight away. So that proved actually, if someone wants to do it, you can climb over.
So security on the 16th level is, and plus you got a really good neighbour, so I hope you water it. But she survived that trip.
Yeah.
Is there a gap in between, or was there?
No, it's actually just a
boundary.
The lane on the street.
Yeah.
And then at my side is my aircon.
Air conditioning machine.
Yeah. And then
so she climbed onto that.
Yeah, she climbed onto that. So,
and then got in through the 10 centimetre window. 12.
No, that's close. So the other room has
okay.
Yeah.
And then she got you in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but the real issue here is ventilation. Who's experienced poor ventilation in a small dwelling, and how have you overcome that, or how could it be overcome?
So I leave my windows open every day. Like right now, my windows are fully open.
Funny you should say that because so is mine.
It's going to rain in 4 hours. You can't.
The rain won't get in. Like the way
okay,
the
these are
building's
12
designed,
centimetre windows, though.
There's one of them. Plus, I got a winter guard. So because it's actually a really important point. You need to recycle the air in your apartment so you feel amazing when you get home. If you didn't do that, the air quality in the apartment would make you feel tired. It'd make you it's
unhealthy.
Yeah,
and also the passageways, I find that they're not ventilated typically as well. I don't know what your one is like. Mine's horrendous.
I've got
not only do you smell people's cooking, there's absolutely no light, no ventilation. If it's a warm day, it heats up. That's it. It's done.
Yeah. And that comes to how to design apartments well. So every apartment we design, we want to make sure that we've got openable windows in the corridors and light coming in from both ends.
That's right.
Okay.
Do you know what I think is important in apartments is to have a coffee place? Because I think I went to one the other day in South Melbourne, and they had a coffee area, so you could sit around, have coffee, buy stuff that you needed from your flat. And particularly when I lived in Sydney, I found that I'd have to get in the car and go and buy a coffee or buy whatever I needed. Whereas I'm finding a lot of apartments now are tending to put like a little coffee place.
Is it, are we talking about a coffee shop or just
Coffee shop.
a
Well, it was
machine that was communal to the building, or?
No, it's an actual it's got like a little safe. It's not Safeway.
The mini supermarket.
Like a mini supermarket.
Bottom.
Yeah, it's bottom floor, and you could have coffees there, and you can have a supermarket as well. So it's really good, and it was for all the apartment people, so they could just come down, buy what they needed, have a coffee.
Yeah.
And I think it's great.
So this is talking about design too, that you would have retail space
Yeah.
on that first floor and other stuff. What would make an apartment space a
If you look
community?
at Mascot in Sydney, they have a lot of apartments there. I stay up there for business sometimes.
Yeah.
Since they brought the IGA and Woolworths at the bottom, and a couple of restaurants, come in there, that you don't have to travel as far. You don't need a big kitchen. You can just shop daily.
Exactly, and a lot of people do, they just get daily food from down there and just go back up to their apartments, but it's a draw card for particularly young people. You know, a real draw card.
You gotta
because
have
they
a
love
big
that.
block to sustain that. You gotta have a fairly large block.
Yeah, this is,
They
I
gotta
mean,
make
it's
money.
a high
High
rise.
density, yeah.
Because they've done that in Italy too, and there's a lot of shopping up there, they've got the whole strip, so it's a lot of passing trade as well, so. it's a lot
And I
of
would have liked
location
one where we were.
and business.
Okay, so we're sort of getting a bit excited, so I'm loving all that. And so we want shopping, we
Yeah.
want coffee shops, we want intranet, you're going to talk to me about storage. What are the positive things about a building design that would make an apartment
I have
attractive?
to agree with the car spots, because I've got another friend that's in an apartment, and they didn't actually do enough car parks. So they've ended up having to redesign where one lifts up from below, so they have to
Stacking.
rotate like stacking.
Yeah.
But she said if she leaves anything in her car, it's a nightmare to have to get it back out again. So, but that was because they had to have 3 visitor car parks.
Yeah.
So 3 people didn't get a car park, so they had to design this stacker. But she said it's not the greatest idea. It works, but she said she has left stuff behind, and it's, you know, you've got to press buttons to get it to rotate, and you've got to wait for it to come back up.
And it's gotta be covered.
Yeah.
Because?
I don't like people in our car. They don't like it. And
So security.
the other thing is
Security.
security, proximity from the car park space that you allocated to your apartment.
Give me a distance to the lift, to the central.
Well, at least the lift.
But sometimes they split a car park up into 2 or 3 to service various sections. Would that be something that would?
Well, that's last year, we all had a choice of 3, and the people one because the car park was closest to the door.
Okay.
It was very convenient. Because some of them, they were on the other side of it, they were even on a different level, which is amazing.
I've also seen the tandem ones, they do well, which don't work really well. They'll give you 2 car parks, so one behind it too.
Yeah.
Oh,
My,
That
my,
doesn't work as well.
my apartment building's got exactly that.
Yeah.
For people who have more than I think 3 bedrooms. So 3 bedrooms, you get 2 car spaces.
Side by side, side by side.
Yeah, it can.
So you just got to find an elderly couple who don't drive anymore and buy a car space. Oh, that's what everybody's doing.
Okay. Can I just ask you, what would you like me to do?
Have we talked about what affordability means to people?
We're going to talk about affordability. That just came to me like that. So, all right. So, if you think about apartments, obviously, actually, you talked about affordability in a different way. You talked about they're not affordable for people who want a bigger offering, but there's probably an entry level spot. So who wants to start the conversation about affordability? And if you were to buy your own home, who's in the sort of first homeowner market or wanting to buy in or downsize that might want to feel like you can say something like that? Yawning. I'll share that with you. All right. So what about some issues around access? So who's thinking about purchasing maybe their first home? Is an apartment an option? Yes. Thank you, because I couldn't see the rings around the book. All right. So you're looking to buy an apartment or thinking about it. What is when you think about affordability? Is an apartment a feasible option in terms of cost?
Yes. And it's definitely like a better option in terms of my lifestyle for price, because like what you could get closer to the city in terms of a house and what you could get in terms of an apartment and closeness to the city and everything is very different, obviously.
So the trade-off for you is low cost, but I don't have to have a car, or I'm just close, I don't have to commute. What's the trade-off? Is it time? Is it location, lifestyle?
It's definitely the commute. I hate driving and I hate spending time getting to places. That's like my number one pet peeve, is when it takes me more than 20 minutes to get anywhere.
Okay.
Melbourne it would. Take 2 hours to get down the road.
Yeah, so definitely like having things close by. Like if I was going to buy an apartment, it would be an apartment that had like a decent sized shopping centre, kind of like grocery store kind of thing nearby.
How would you approach trading amenity? So would you be prepared to compromise size, or compromise the kitchen, or compromise the living space? How small is too small to promote the lifestyle that you're trying to aspire to?
I'm not very good with like square meters or anything like that, but I don't so much think it's about the size. I think it's about how it's used. So like back to the storage question, like I've lived in huge apartments before that have had no storage whatsoever. I've had to buy all this stuff and bring it in and, work out how everything fits and everything. And then
We're talking IKEA, right? Okay, yeah.
And then it just makes 6 months later.
Well, but you're trying to create storage because there was none. Okay. We had that
storage there already.
Okay, so a small space could be quite funky if it had better storage.
Yeah, definitely.
Could we segue to video, or do you not want to do that?
I don't have the video set up, unfortunately.
I have it on my phone.
You can give it a go. Absolutely.
Okay, so in New York, they're looking at some funky furniture designs of modular pieces. So just bear with, chat amongst yourself. No, don't talk to me. And I just want to show you a little video of what it might look like. So we're all going to have to look at this very small screen. So come and cuddle closer. In New York, like centre.
You talk about movable furniture.
Yes, movable furniture.
It's becoming actually quite popular.
Yeah. So
movable spaces, effectively.
Pardon?
Movable spaces, effectively.
Yeah.
How valuable do we perceive that piece of joinery?
See, I would, if that was my place, I would have that.
Because it helps the jobs that you need to work through every day. In what manner? As an example, does it create an opportunity for Maya to sleep where you might not be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Okay.
Potentially. Yeah.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No. But they're pretty good words, actually.
I'm going to make it big. Hold on. It's got a great soundtrack. We might have to pass it around, then you can just keep replaying it until we sort of sing. You can kill the music, or we can dance. It's up to you. The music's meant to make you like it. Well,
But you can get away having a smaller kitchen if you've got those IGAs close by and things like that.
So that was an interesting point that you both mentioned earlier, is what would you trade off? So could you live in a space this size? Smaller kitchen?
Yeah.
A smaller kitchen if you had supermarket and you were talking about daily shop.
Yeah.
Now that's very much Beijing. Have you lived in Beijing as well? Or Asia, sorry, I'm so racist. And overseas, South America, you know, over there where we're over here. That's all I'm going to share. So, daily shop is more the norm. You don't have trolleys. Tell me you don't have trolleys. No. Okay, so that the daily shop is because you can walk across the road and get your food.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how you sustain a smaller space. So 70 square meters, was it?
Yes. Yeah. We had also like a very small shop within the apartment.
Yes.
Like there were like a lot. Not within the apartment, sorry, within the buildings.
Yes.
And then it was very useful because like if my mom was to forget to buy like, I don't know, onion meal, she would send us, to buy it. But it was very safe because it was kind of like a closed area with, private security as well.
So it was within the building just for the people in the building, or
within the buildings. Like,
okay.
It was like there was like around 17 buildings.
17.
Yeah, 17 buildings, and then each floor would have around 4 apartments. And then there would be 5 levels. So that was around the 17.
Okay, and so those 17 buildings could access a communal shop,
exactly.
and it was open late.
Yeah.
So that if I forgot the onion.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking we've got no space to even store onions. That's how small your kitchen is. Okay, because the typical house here would have onions. So would that be similar, that you're buying food and fresh fruit produce
We
daily?
have like a farm truck coming in every week into the whole like the building blocks, and then they all stay there for one day, and the people get whatever, like all the fresh produce. Yeah.
So okay,
Market come to us, and then
you could buy all your fresh produce, and that's a weekly shop.
Yeah.
Okay. And you had a fridge, obviously.
Yeah.
What was in your kitchen?
Oven stove, fridge, and bench.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Oh, but laundry and the kitchen is in the same area, so that we stuck in a washing machine there. So,
You had a laundry in your kitchen?
yeah.
It's not exactly laundry, it's just the washing machine, kitchen, or bathroom. It's not laundry.
It's a washing machine. Is that the same for yourselves?
Yeah, we all had a space for both the dry and the washing machine. All the apartments had that.
In the house.
Yeah, in the house.
All right, so just sharing this video, and we're going to just chat about that.
It's interesting because I've lived in a few houses that had the laundry and bathroom combined. And if the house wasn't exactly small, for instance, that there would be only one bathroom. And how many bedrooms do we have? We had a bungalow with a bathroom in it. But the main house was had a bathroom and a laundry together and 3 bedrooms. The plumbing was, that's just the way they reconfigured it. And it was fine. It was just weird. It just seemed like it was weird having a shower in your laundry.
Okay, so we're not talking about looking now. We're talking about that. Just all saw that together. So initial thoughts on combining a bedroom laundry. If this was a space that you could fit out, would that piece of furniture help to create a livable place, and who would live in there, and what amenity would you need in order to support a smaller dwelling, potentially?
So I stayed in Airbnb in Tokyo that was basically exactly like that. It had a bed that folded up into the wall, and then it had chairs that you would push up against the wall when you folded the bed down, and to make more space and everything.
So one at night it was one, a day it was another.
Yes.
Which is kind of what that was. Could you all see that? Was that okay? Yep.
And it was great because everything folded away and you didn't have any clutter, so it never felt, it was tiny, but it never felt small because you didn't have stuff all over the place. Like everything had a cupboard that it went in and you weren't just leaving stuff all over the place. But the thing that's really interesting about them is that in Tokyo, a lot of apartment buildings are built on top of railway stations.
Yeah.
And subways, and then that is like you have everything that you need there. So built into the train station, there's there's restaurants and like nice restaurants, like not like Southern Cross where it's like like yeah, like they're actual like nice restaurants that people actually go to. And there's supermarkets, but the supermarkets aren't like a normal supermarket. It's actually aimed at the people who are living there. So there's lots of like ready-made sort of things, or like things where you can buy different components and make something very easily. And they just have everything you could possibly think of.
Yeah, if only we had space over a railway line here, that would be great.
We do.
We do. Oh, excellent. So we can put that to the.
We just need courage. We just need courage.
Because it's
first one you did it, it's been highly successful. Huge blocks up there.
Yeah, and in between
Yeah,
you've got the
that's
shopping
true,
and whatnot. So so the potential exists.
And it should be highly successful because you just look at Tokyo. I've just been there recently. It blew my mind how amazing it is.
There's just so many people and yet it works.
And it
Okay,
works
so we're
extremely well.
talking. You've raised a really important point. I want you all to think about this, which is a good space never feels small. Yeah. Let's talk about space and design. Would it be this size? This would not be. Would it have been this size?
Maybe even smaller.
And it felt comfortable.
Yeah.
For how many people?
Just me in that one, but my parents have one exactly the same next door.
Okay, so it could be one, it could be two.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So think about this size of space. Think about potential fit outs. We're thinking about what we need. How can you make a good space feel? That's, what did you say? I'm going to write it down. A good space doesn't feel small, but could be small. That's what you said?
I think it needs to not inhibit what you would be able to do really if the space wasn't so small. So for example, the risk if you have a really small space, say, is that having people over, for dinner or something becomes difficult because like in that video, that place seemed a bit too small that you couldn't say have, 5, you couldn't have a table that would seat 6 or have 6 people for dinner. But I feel like if I lived in a really small place, the ability to fold the bed away and stuff I would happily accept if the space was still big enough to do other things. So you don't just want a tiny little box that you then have to work everything around, but if it's small and that allows you to have, people over and stuff, so you're not losing that ability, then that's, sort of the level of compromise that.
Okay, so there's two things you're raising. One is having entertaining friends, really important. So you want to do that within your dwelling. Could you do it in a restaurant? Because you're talking now, you got a good restaurant right down the street. Or does the building supply an area that potentially could have a fine dining room that you could hire out, or a professional kitchen that if you wanted to go all out and cook, the facilities and amenities were there, Master Chef style. What sort of things would you want to have access to enable you to live comfortably without compromising? What requirements?
Well, I think the restaurant, while it would be useful as I think obviously wherever this fictitious apartment is, it needs to be near good infrastructure because that, mitigates a whole array of issues. But the ability to go to a restaurant, I feel, is separate. Is a different experience to having people over.
Yeah.
So you don't want to lose the ability to have people over, although being near a restaurant is nice for other times, in your life. I think the dining room situation is potentially a good resolution, although then the issue becomes about how because if you have 20 apartments in the block, how do you, do it so that everyone has an opportunity and it's not just,
There
just
may
how
be
to do it.
multiple
Yeah, just
or
how, so it
how
has to
would
be
that
enough that
be
everyone can be
access it.
access it.
There is actually a building not far from here. I can't remember what it's called. That nice sort of, you know, the one I'm doing? Just off Albert, near Albert Street. Scaled kind of facade. I'm not sure if you remember that. So that particular building.
Oh, the honeycomb building. Is it the honeycomb one?
I think
Just
that's
on
the one
the
next-
domain interchange.
Yes.
yeah, that one. And that place has, not only does it have a upstairs, it's effectively on top of it, so it doesn't have a penthouse. It has an outdoor facility where people can congregate, but it also has a living and kitchen set up where you can actually book it through, like, I think the internet or type scenario. I can't quite remember how they organise it, but you can actually book it out and have your friends over, watch a movie, because there is a I think from memory there was a television there, and there was a full kitchen and dining and all that sort of stuff. It just means that you've just got to book it, and if you've got a small kitchen and you want to have a party, you're not going to exactly cook there.
So you've got access to a commercial kitchen. There might be several dishwashers, fridges, a bit like camping, but super, super glam.
Yeah.
Where you go and, you know, those camping places where you've got a communal facility and then you've got your shelf with your, it might be a lockable space or something you hire just for the evening when you bring your turkey or your chicken or whatever it might be, cooking there, hiring it out, and then having access to a private dining or an open space. So it could be anything. Let's keep talking about that, and then we're going to talk more about storage. But experiences, what would an apartment, because what you're saying effectively is the penthouse isn't for one person, it's for everybody. And that's an interesting idea, that you now create the special thing for everybody and you're creating sort of equality.
So it's also like getting back to people meeting within the building and creating that sense of community within that space. So you know, if it's not booked out, you could still go up there and read a book or watch a movie, or you know, you might have a small television, but you might want to go watch a movie or whatever it might be, and you might organise people from the building to go up and let's have a movie night.
Yeah.
Or let's catch up for dinner up there and let's all cook, everyone sort of cook something together.
Okay, so you could post that we've been having cooking or whatever. Are there other facilities? We in the previous group we talked about laundry and ironing and personal washing. Are there other facilities that could be outsourced? Like if there was a built-in dry cleaner or professional cleaning, dry cleaning, like you check into a hotel and you can put the stuff in a laundry bag. Would they be things you'd be interested in to now not have a laundry, or other types of amenity that you may have experienced in other spaces? Like on holidays, maybe? Anyone who...
I still think I prefer a laundry because just because of the cost point of view.
Yeah.
I think it'll be cheaper.
You don't always feel like just sitting out your clothes. You want something quick, so you just sort of wash it yourself.
Is there any appeal for things like that at all, or no?
Yeah.
And I think there's already just so many dry cleaners.
Yeah.
Like we live just up the road, and there's probably 8 in our house.
Okay.
But also you can also bring somebody in to come and pick your laundry up
there's
from
that
the stairs
kind.
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's that
that's
one.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. There are services like that you can call and they'll come to you and drop
So
it
that's a
back off.
personal choice.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Uber Eats comes to you as well, but the
Yeah.
kitchen is an appealing option to have access to a communal kitchen because it creates community.
Yeah.
It helps to service your friendship needs,
Yeah,
those sorts of
absolutely.
things.
It's when you want to think of other people.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you think about, we talked about gardens, somebody mentioned, I can't remember,
Courtyards.
courtyards. Can you talk to me about open spaces and what that means and how that might be an important feature and how?
Yeah, well, courtyard is something that normally the courtyards will have access to lots of sunlight.
Yeah.
So sunlight is crucial, that we absorb it during the day. Most of the times, if you'll go to like a rooftop that is covered, The courtyard is great. You can have a lot more greenery down there in the courtyard as opposed to a rooftop. So that courtyard and the design of that courtyard is really important.
Okay.
This yeah, this particular building that I was referring to, the kitchen, also had a rooftop garden amenity that you could basically, I think it had a spa up there too, didn't it? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it had a.
When you say
one or two
spa, you mean?
It had a spa, like a jacuzzi.
Oh, okay. Not a day spa.
No. And it had, you could pretty much walk around the whole rooftop and experience different views.
Okay.
So you had, I think you could see, obviously the bay,
West Cape Bridge.
Yeah, West Cape Bridge.
And they're far more useful than unusable balconies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would much rather having something like that than have a balcony associated with my apartment.
Okay, so that's an interesting
and it's kind of
thing.
useless to me.
Balcony to me is the most important.
Okay, so let's talk about
Absolutely.
balconies.
Just that it gives you more, you can open up the
Ventilation.
doors.
That's the best thing about
Yeah,
it.
and you've got that extra room, well, you can put
Extension.
you can put a barbecue out
So
there.
tell me about the best balcony you've ever seen and design of an apartment that really worked from a balcony, from a space and a ventilation. Anybody?
You need at least a table of 6 chairs to go around the usable balcony. These ones are just putting one round table and 2 chairs. I'm over an incident and I go past the fire, I said, no one's around.
No, too windy as well.
So if it's too small, it's not used, it's
No,
not worth it, it
it's not
needs
worth
to be usable. But I mean, I've seen apartments where you've got the balcony in the corner, it's accessible from 2 rooms. Is that positive? Or with ventilation? Does it address your issue of air quality?
Yeah,
Can we talk about that?
The balcony, I think it's necessary for ventilation, for good ventilation.
Yeah, it really makes.
Makes a massive difference.
So what about those French balconies where you open the doors, you don't step out into it, but it just opens? So it creates that space, but they're not. you can read it. I don't make it.
What are they called, Juliet?
Yeah, so you basically open, there's a balustrading outside and you open it up, so there's a sort of a balcony.
I think the ability to walk on, this is my personal experience, is in the morning, it's nice if you've got a balcony to be able to walk onto it and see, this is just a very little thing, is to see the temperature that it is outside that day. And I feel, I do that because I feel like if you've got that Juliet balcony, like just you can open it, you don't get the same perception. And actually being able to go, I mean, it sounds like a little silly thing, but to me, like, it helps you just know what the temperature is, like, and how it's going to be that day. So you just get a sense of, like, what the day's going to be.
And then you can humidify at least once a day.
Okay, so we want to get on our balcony. It's got to be big enough. It's talking about ventilation, space, entertaining, big enough to create that thing. Can we now talk a bit about storage? And Michael, you're going to start. Because you were talking about best, like different designs of apartments, and you two are going to go head to head here. Remember, I said that was going to happen. So, what I want to understand is good space, good design. You were talking about small space doesn't need to be necessarily negative as long as it's got good functionality. And you've lived in a range of sizes and apartments, and you were saying it's sort of about being organised and how you live, and we're going to do a how-to manual, which we can do later. But if we can sort of think about what would make, how would you sell to me to buy an apartment? If what would be those space
So I'd
issues?
say 99% of apartments out there are designed really badly.
Yeah.
And it's about educating the customer or the end user about how to identify that.
Yeah.
And show them how great it can actually be to live in an apartment that's designed.
Okay, so how great can it be? What's the design things that you're talking about? What's in your bit?
So for me, with storage in particular, I've got a storage cage that I use in a systematic manner.
So this is under the building?
Yeah, so this
next
is,
to your car
it's actually above my storage. So a storage cage is above my car park.
Okay.
Which I absolutely love. It's probably no more than half full. So
Who's loving this idea?
I've actually got that scenario because I've only just started living in the place where I'm living. I find it, I haven't used it to the extent that you probably do yet.
Yeah.
But the only restriction I find about it is that if your car's parked in the front and you say you put a bike in it, you have to get the car out. You have to, your storage cage is not, you're not literally fronting it unless unless your car's not in that spot. And if you have visitor car parking, which is what I've done, is I've parked in the visitor car park and used the cage. But the plus for that is that it's fully, you can't see through it. Like a typical cage.
Things.
That's correct. And that's a huge advantage because I know people who have had expensive bikes stolen from cages that have been just, your cyclone type looking thing. And
Okay, so what does a cage look like when you can't see through it?
So there are considerations, right? If we were to put the cage somewhere else in another area of the building, that's going to cost you another 20, 25 grand as an end user. I can, by my habits and the way that I've formed the way I think about storage, I've saved $25,000. I've got a secure storage piece that
in terms of the cost of the apartment. Yep.
So it's about educating people, hey, maybe we understand your issues around storage. These are some of the good ideas we've got about how to handle storage in apartments.
So what do you store in there?
So
but it's big enough for a bike?
Yeah, mine's actually, I reckon I could just about fit my bike in there. If my handlebars weren't long enough, they're like quite.
So it's 1 meter by 3 meters, or what are we talking?
2.6 by 1 by.
Yeah.
I love all you people in here with the so cute.
And for me, like your issue.
So hold on, you need to get on a ladder to put your bike up.
I can lift my bike and just shove it in there.
And who else is going to be able to do that?
I would say I wouldn't be putting bikes in there. Like the developer should be smarter and be providing a very secure bicycle park. Having said that, if you've got a really expensive bike, you either put it in your balcony or something.
And that is my problem.
Yeah.
My bike currently is at my ex-wife's place.
Yeah.
You need a fold up. Fold them up.
And I've had to get her to insure under her. Right? So I'll pay
because it
extra
doesn't fit
because
in your
it doesn't fit in my or
in the lift.
Well, it would fit in a lift and it would fit in my apartment, but I don't necessarily want my bike to be standing. I love my bike. Don't get me wrong.
It's not a feature.
I'm joking. If it's dirty, if it's clean, it's a feature. But if it's dirty, it's not.
No. Okay.
What size cage do you need?
Well, I was going to say, can these cages be suspended and come down for people like we would?
So you can
get access to them and rummage in them. Do we climb in them? Do you pull them out?
Yeah.
And what's in these cages? Are we talking? We're coming to.
I had one of them before, and I used to have to climb up into it, like physically into it, to get the things out the back.
And how much did you love that?
Okay,
so I'm just going to do a statement here about your agility, but I'm kind of thinking there's more people around the room who aren't going to love that concept as much, no matter how good the how-to guidance.
Yeah.
So how can we make it better? Is my point.
The way I think is, do I spend an extra 25 grand? Let's say theoretically, because it would be that plus some for a developer to deliver a cage.
You're
or
thinking
extra
like a
storage
developer, and
somewhere
you're not
else.
allowed to have that hat on.
Oh no! I'm actually thinking like someone who's buying a place.
Still, like every cupboard in my kitchen is flat.
Yeah.
I don't have any shelf. I hate them.
Yeah.
And they're too deep and you can't get up. If that cage will slide out, have them.
Yeah.
Okay, so slide out
3 metre cage,
accessibility.
then a bicycle. Yeah, what?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, well and truly. Yeah.
Could that fit above the car space? Is that
With bikes,
it's a bit complicated.
I would say put in a proper bike cage.
Yeah.
With
Separate.
combination like and only select people have a log who has the codes.
Yeah.
And make it fully secure and do it properly.
I think in Burwood we had a bike room
was gonna say, the places have bike workshops now and stuff as well, that allow you to, because I mean, in the inner,
What's a bike workshop?
so in the inner city where people, have less need for a car, I mean, not that they don't provide the car space, but they recognise that a lot of people are going to be riding their bikes to work.
Okay, sorry, I just need you to listen because I can't hear on the doing machine. Go.
That a lot of people ride their bikes to work. They provide, obviously, bike spots for everyone to park their bikes as they would a car, so they don't have to be putting cages. Obviously, it doesn't work with an uber expensive bike because you have to be.
Well, you can create security to that, so let's just keep working.
But they also provide a space to, fix your bike, which is probably, it might be smaller than this table, but it just provides an area for someone to, fix the chain on their bike.
So a workshop area to fix stuff, because you still have to fix stuff, and it might not just be a bike. For those of us who aren't living in apartments as well, what stuff do you fix in the garage and whatnot that you now need to have access?
Has to be secure. Just the wire ones that get installed, bikes that get installed.
Yeah, and it's quite ripe actually. People get in there.
That's the latest thing they're doing.
That's right.
It needs to be a bike room that's secure. Available only to the residents.
Yeah, and it's keyed, like the one we had in Burwood. It was fantastic.
And then you can lock your bike separately to that, to something else in the room.
Yeah, I think it had bike. It actually had bike. What do they call it? We could do that. Literally chain it up if you wanted to, but it had its own door.
Okay, so we're talking bikes. What other stuff are you storing in there?
Oh, I've actually got my roof racks in there at the moment, and probably like snowboard and whatever else. I don't know.
So sporting
stuff, I would imagine,
which can be big and bulky. Yeah.
You probably wouldn't fit a surfboard in there.
Okay.
In that particular, the one that we have.
Boogie board,
Yeah, a boogie board. Yeah.
roller skates.
Pat, how would you feel if you had an Uber service where on demand you wanted your snowboard and no different to ordering a pizza, the Uber service would deliver the snowboard ready for you to go?
Oh, that'd be awesome. If they could do that with my bike, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so there would be things like your luggage, your Christmas tree, your sporting
Your
gear
winter
that
jacket.
you could, your clothes, that your summer and winter wardrobe that you could press a button or ring and then they deliver it to you or whatever, but maybe stored off site in your secure space. Would that work?
That would work, but I imagine that would be quite costly. I don't think it would be out of realms for most people, especially depending on how big the apartment they bought and what their rates and body corporate is and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I guess if it was a cost within the body corporate, then
Could there be bikes within the building that you share?
Yeah,
like
share
they
bikes.
do in Melbourne already,
Yeah.
and a surfboard that's communal and a
It's just
rollerblades
the
or
kind
whatever
of the
these
kind of
things
bike
are.
riding that I do is
Specific.
specific. It's specific mountain bike riding. So it's
What
not,
about luggage? We had the last group talk about luggage. Is luggage important that you have personal? Could you share that? Would it just be dial a suitcase?
there is no way I would share my luggage. There's not a chance.
Especially at the airport.
Oh, good point. So they're all stored in your cage?
So anything in the apartment that is in the apartment is there because I use it within a 4-week period. Anything over a 4-week period is down in the storage cage.
Okay, it's very specific. So can you give me an example of what's in there?
So my summer clothes, as an example, not in the wardrobe. That'd be down in the storage cage.
What else?
My luggage is actually under my bed, hidden away. You can't see it, but I actually use that as storage for like jackets and coats and stuff that I wouldn't use very often, or electric blanket or something like that.
That's what I liked about that modular furniture. My thought was the bed slides underneath them, which is good. But what happened to my electric blanket?
Okay, so things like that. If you had
I was just going to say that it's interesting about that system is that it means that larger items that are still used frequently have to be enough storage to still get them in the house, the flat, because you're not doing it on we'll just put all the big things in the cage. So you still need the storage to store the big used things.
Yeah.
Can I ask a dumb question since we do have some developments in the room, developers in the room? But are false ceilings and in between levels full of air conditioning things so you could potentially use space that's not used, attic type space up here or not? Is that possible?
Pretty cramped with everything, all mechanical services and.
So there's not a lot of space. Could it be designed that all the wires and stuff was on one side and there was?
You could create bulkheads and things like that, but then
It takes up space and they want
So
eight
not
floors,
really.
8 floors instead of 7. So
Okay, so that's not an option.
You reduce a full length window and then have it boxed underneath the storage. That's another option. You have a lot of glass for light, which is good.
yeah, I think
But
I
you
prefer
lose
a
storage
full.
on
I think I prefer the light.
What about modular furniture? You know, kitchen benches, island benches that are on wheels there and can be moved around. You've seen furniture that a dining table can be flipped around and then converts to a coffee table. Have you seen those sorts of things? Are you looking at furniture? What does the inside of your apartment look like? Do you have a lot of furniture? And where have you bought it from? Did you work here? Okay, yep.
What I'd say about my apartment is I spent many years finding the right floor plan that actually worked for me.
Okay.
So it's not, I just bought an apartment that, I'll take that apartment, thanks. It was a highly considered.
Can you tell me about the floor plan?
Yeah, so the floor plan needs to have, feels like it has separate areas within the apartment itself, so you get a bit of relief. So
Yeah.
bedrooms always need to be separated for me.
Separate from each other?
Separate from each other. The living area has to be able to fit sofa, armchair, big TV, and I need to be able to fit a six-seated dining table in there.
Yep.
And I need a kitchen. I don't cook at all, so the functionality of the kitchen I don't use, but the storage in it is great. So I need a kitchen with island bench and cupboard, adequate cupboard storage.
What's a cupboard in a kitchen you're talking about drawers, which is
Slide
all about storage and maximising space, and 4, not 3, but you're talking what? Are you talking about a walk-in kitchen pantry? We're talking about, I've seen some apartments where they've got a butler's pantry, laundry behind the kitchen, which is a good use of the dark space. Are we talking things like that?
What I'd say is I'd love to have that, but I'm not prepared to pay the extra $50,000
to have the space. Yeah. Okay, so
walking roads, that's what walking
but I guess all I'm saying is I bought in a particular apartment building quite specifically, and the demographic that's bought into there, we're looking for those similar things, I guess.
Can you draw it for me after?
Yes, it's pretty good.
I'd like you to talk to me about space.
I have a pantry at work. I work as a nanny. That it's a cupboard. It's just a normal cupboard, and then it has sort of like a metal structure with baskets on the inside that pulls out.
Oh yes.
So the issue with like a lot of cupboards is that like you have stuff off the back and you can't get to it. So this has like a metal thing that pulls out. And in theory, it works very well. It could be designed better because sometimes things pull out and they fall underneath, and you can't get them out. But I think that idea is a very good idea if it was slightly better executed.
Okay, so
I think it depends on the product that's being used, because the one that I have is actually quite good, and I don't find anything that falls out of it.
Yeah.
I've never had one of those before. If I was buying an apartment and it didn't have one of those things in, I would probably consider twice.
It saves a
Because
lot
that
of
thing
space.
is amazing. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
do we have a name for it?
Pull out pantry.
Just to pull out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it enables you to actually access it from both sides and still be extremely functional.
Okay, so if I was to sum up, we're talking about small isn't necessarily bad. It's really about amenity. It's about creating a community. It's about having functional space and design. It's about having some features that you haven't shortcut on. It's about sound insulation. It's about utilising space even in garages to have places for extraneous stuff. It's about being really clever about space and making small space feel good. It's about airflow. You talked a lot about airflow in space. And then
Not
if I can't,
not just airflow within the apartment, within the building itself.
So the door, the
whole
hallways
building
and the,
needs
the
to have
entrance.
the right ventilation.
Mm.
Otherwise, it doesn't feel welcoming, and it just.
Because they don't air condition corridors.
That's right. They
So
don't heat it. They don't
on
air
100
conditioning.
degree day, it's,
Mm.
honestly, it's in the corridor, and apartments or up.
And then when you combine that with people's cooking and everything like that, and everyone cooks different styles of food, and all of a sudden you walk out of your apartment, and it's like, oh my, suddenly you get hit with this. That's my take on it. That's my.
And the air in the corridors are very stale, so you get out of the lift and get hit by this.
Yeah.
And then
it's
the
stale.
communal-
Yeah, it is. You're quite right.
Okay, and thank you. You have officially on record as being my largest focus group ever. So thank you, and I'm quite warm now. Have I missed anything in that summary? If anyone wants to give me drawings, can we have a quick chat afterwards? I really appreciate all of your comments. I didn't get round to all of you as much as I would have liked. So if you want to send me an email, you're welcome to if there's anything else. I wanted to conclude with IKEA. Have you ever been through their displays where they actually talk about it's a 45 square metre home design, and it kind of has everything through that?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. What's the feeling of that? Is that kind of a walkthrough of function? Have you seen those as being a positive experience? Or?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them they pack full of props and things like that, and they just look kind of ridiculous. But some of them actually look really good, and like you can see that. A lot of the things in there have more than one purpose.
Yes.
Which is a big thing, I guess.
I think that's what IKEA's products are centered around.
I guess it's more that you can walk through it. If you walked through it as well, you put your hand up.
Then they create more storage.
So
of that furniture.
The furniture's designed to
designed,
be yeah. So the bed has drawers and things like that. Can you give me some examples?
Like what you said, the beds have drawers underneath and things like
Who
that.
else have been through IKEA but just no? All right, cool.
They make good use of the corner of the room as well. Corner of the kitchen.
Yeah.
With a carousel sometimes or another type of pull out.
So pull out.
So wherever you can't reach to the back of the cupboard, they make it easy.
To get
also they use a lot of space on the wall, so they can put shelves and cupboards on the wall.
Yes, and so even to your Japanese point where chairs, I've seen that can hang on the walls during the day, really as a picture, and then you bring them out as you need to, and then so that the space is open, stacked, having very functional design, whereas a lot of furniture in Australia isn't that modular. Okay, thank you very much. That's all I can say. I'm done. Take some fruit home, people. Now, the people on my list, if you could just come up and see me, I'll just call out some names. So they're all people that don't work for Fraser. I have a little gift for you. So I've got Katrina Ellis. Sorry. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Gary Warren. Thank you so much. Jenny.
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
Ross. Is there a Ross? Bill. And Angela. And me. Is that was you?
Thank you.
All right, so is there a procedure for leaving the building?
I'll open the doors, yeah.
Just so our visitors who don't work for the company just follow Dan in the light blue shirt there. He will escort you friendly out of the building. You've got a bike. Oh, okay. So Ross and I'm not sure, but I have an extra one. So anyway,
Before you organise
But I did have an issue. That's cool. You sent me the email.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
one
maybe
was-
it's-
That's okay. We had the extra.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for listening.
Oh, no worries.
But this was that was inside development, I think it was development.
That was awesome. Can you take me through your floor plan before you go, or you can just?
One of our, this is modular.
Okay. Yeah.
There was one where it was looking at a house. Now,
So understanding the house.
and a house that they designed,
Because
that could
if
be
you ask someone
in the future rejoined. So it was like 4 townhouses, or it could be used as 2 houses, or as one house.
Most of the time.
That's what
I think I have seen that,
You have a.
that concept is.
This is my copy. This would work. This was an apartment and they built, it was all, they built all the furniture and
I
their
guess
trading
for me,
furniture.
I think about
So
it.
the thing I would say
If
is
you-
good, but you know, it's only good if you actually like.
Yeah.
In a bedroom.
But there was one.
And
you know,
then if you walked into a studio or a hotel room and the upgrade from your bedroom was, oh, I have a kitchen
Yeah.
and my own bathroom.
About this apartment, that was to be,
You know,
like you could
what
make
is
them
that
one
transition
house.
to independence?
Or they could
And
be
then
like, it was saying be
you've
a
got not a lot of
multi-generational,
that.
like an extended.
I think it's very
family.
difficult
The
when
idea that
we've
they
got
could be
people
merged
who
back
have
together.
got, you know, sewing rooms and that, you know, all this sort of, not flutter, but even that kind of, that's partly a whole
All
discussion,
that,
is
that's
that
right.
sort of mental stimulation, all those important things. Maybe that could be
This
in a
month.
way, that's not education, that's sort of
Yeah.
I guess it's how do you transition people into that opportunity without, without downside. And I think there's the energy of the young person who goes, I've travelled, I've been, and I think we're all at the same place.
Sits on my desk and then the next one comes, I take the old one up and.
Take
it home.
House has a negative connotation, but it's your home or your private space, and your world is
Yeah.
where you experience it.
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
If you guys want to-
Just because of the lifestyle, I like the supermarket being downstairs. It's all that lifestyle, there's no way I would just downstairs.
Yes.
Because I've actually got one of my universities twice a year.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to use it, they go to the restaurants, you know, and
Yes.
they're proud to entertain people in the street, and you know, it's a different.
Yeah.
Living. But the people in my building choose to live that way, if that makes sense. People in other buildings.
Yeah.
Or
And a lot of it
not
really
the scale of the apartment building that I'm in, will probably do different things to that again.
So I'm just gonna turn off that camera. Did you press stop?
No, I didn't.
Press the rest of the- end stream.